Is there something you've always wanted to do?
The wash is out, it's hanging up, and all I have is nothing. Nothing to do, nothing to say. I think I must be dreaming. The sun comes up and I'm all washed out. Is this what Tina was talking about? I don't think I will ever return again, my friend. If I was king,
In 1995, American alternative band Ween released their acclaimed album Chocolate and Cheese, and were in the midst of their hotly anticipated Australian tour. Now, to call Ween simply alternative might be a little disingenuous. Fronted by the alter egos of Mickey Melchiando and Aaron Freeman, Dean and Gene Ween, but this story isn't about Ween. I want to tell you a story about one of the most creatively inspiring things I've ever heard, and my personal favourite music moment of all time. Yes, better than What the Fuck Is Up, Denny's. So the band find themselves on Triple R, which is Melbourne's independent radio station, and they appear in a segment called Hotwire, which is hosted exceptionally by Karen Lang. And this is where our story begins. So this recording is actually pretty amazing to hear. I mean, just listen to their energy in the first 10 seconds of their introduction.
Yeah, it's a Ween hoedown on Triple R this evening. Live on Hotwire, the 4 members of Ween have joined me in the studio. And
now, the fandom in Australia for Ween at this time was totally ferocious and pretty damn weird.
Where are you, Dick?
Me? I'm in a phone box. Where do you reckon dicks hang out? Well, like at the moment, like I'm just sort of like having a great time because a friend of me, we just went out today and we did heaps of acid. And like you guys were going down really good with it.
Ooh. The kind of things people are calling in with aren't really the thing you would expect to hear today. Questions about in-band mythology.
Okay, besides the fact that you're my absolute god, I was wondering, tell me about Boognish, hey?
Song requests, including covers.
Play Mr. Won't You Please Help My Pony. Do you think you could play that one acoustically this evening?
Yeah, I think so.
Probably should do it right now. Right?
And coincidentally, a slew of people named Dick calling in with varying results.
we've got another Dick on the phone now. Different Dick from before?
Yes, I'm a completely different Dick.
Another Dick.
I actually thought that Dick was the only person who rang up and was being truthful because he was the only one that admitted he was being a dick.
And Ween's answers to these questions aren't that simple either, resulting in some of the funniest moments of the show. They often come across as dismissive or downright uninterested in a sort of jokey, playful way.
Right,
Can't do it, no.
all right. Tell me about Mean and Charlie.
Yeah, I'm into Mean and Tally. Yeah, I like Mean and Tally too.
What?
Mean.
Perhaps you better explain.
Meaner.
I don't know.
Who are these people?
They're definitely Ween. They're not imposters.
Mean Ween is...
And Ween continue this chaos by not exactly fulfilling song requests either, whether they outright reject song requests,
Laura? Nah, that's too deep, Not much of a party tune.
play half of songs,
Yeah, man, we don't want to do the whole song. It would take like all night.
Well, can you do sort of like
What,
at
do-
least a bit of it?
No, give me... What's your favorite verse? We'll do that verse.
or absolutely butcher the living daylights out of a cover of Mongoloid by Devo.
Mongoloid, it was a Mongoloid. Oh.
There's just such delightful energy to it all, and it's not something you typically hear today, or even something you'd even want to air.
Make sure you bring some crystal meth with you, too.
Well, if I can get my hands on any, man.
It's for the drummer.
But between the dicks and silly questions, song requests, there is one moment I'm going to talk about, which kicked off this whole story for me. About 2/3 of the way through, we are introduced to Dylan.
Full songs Ween have written, performed live for you.
We need more beer.
Oh, we'll send someone off to get some beer.
We want to keep playing.
Excellent.
Keep more calls. Yeah. Are we here for another few hours or so?
Dylan, how you going?
Dylan.
A young bloke named Dylan calls into the show and asks the band if they would like a harmonica player to play at their upcoming show at the Evelyn Hotel. What immediately strikes you about Dylan is that he seems to find the very question to be funny, which is very much in line with the tone of the rest of the show.
I was just wondering if you fellas are looking for any harp players.
Harp players. Yeah, actually, we've got a room for you. You coming out tomorrow night?
And in typical Ween fashion, they do the complete opposite of what you'd think they would do. They say yes. And from there, we learn a little bit more about Dylan. He seems to be quite taken aback by the band's willingness to participate in his sort of joke.
I was actually going to. I had a friend who went and picked up some tickets at the Evelyn, and for some funny reason I went, maybe I'll just wait till later. So maybe I can, like, roadie for you or something like that.
It's from here where the wheels come off and Dylan's call goes from just being simply funny to, frankly, iconic.
Tell him to bring that harp out.
Dylan pulls out his harmonica and says,
Can you play an E?
Ween obliges.
Dude.
And what follows has been playing in my mind ever since. Ween and Dylan launch into a fully improvised jam session, with Ween in the studio and Dylan on the other end of the phone.
Dude.
Can you hear that?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, go. Give me some more.
Alright. 12 bar.
12 bar.
The enthusiasm is just so infectious. You can really hear the passion and talent reverberating through the fuzzy recording. And Ween's lyrics are totally absurd.
Yeah, shrimp on the Barbie. I got a PB in my hand.
And it all ends with such electrifying energy that you can't help but feel like you need to stand up and applaud.
That was beautiful, man.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
So what's your name? Kirk is panicking.
Dylan, I'm here.
All
Dylan.
Dylan, you're on the guest list.
I'm on the guest list.
Yeah. Every show for the rest of the tour.
Oh, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. It's been pretty quiet these days. All right, so I can just roll up and hopefully buy a ticket or just say my name. And maybe they'll let me in if I'm very lucky.
Dude, you're there. You're in.
You're in, man. You're in. Bring your harp in E.
Right, Dylan.
In E?
Remember, man.
In E.
All right, that'd be good.
Cheers, Dylan.
Shrimp on the Barbie, man. That's the new song. Thanks for the magic.
That was excellent.
And with that, an obscure moment in music history was created. And in my eyes, it's led me to here, doing this project. I mean, I don't want to get too granular, and I don't really think I can explain to people what I find so captivating about this performance. Like, there's all these insane technical limitations to it, you know, and Dylan sort of acknowledges this in the actual show.
That was kind of interesting with the phone in one hand and the harp in the other. The radio on in the background with a 15-second delay, kind of.
And, you know, it's pretty cool too. Like, it doesn't really matter if you're a Ween fan, a music fan. Pretty much everyone I've shown this to finds it, at the very least, pretty fun. But I've always really struggled to explain to people what I love about this so much and why I've always wanted to tell this story. I mean, yeah, it is pretty innocuous and it's probably pretty pointless. Like, I've really struggled to try and explain to people what exactly I'm trying to do here and what story I'm trying to tell and why I'm just so inspired to make this in the first place. Because, yeah, at the end of the day, it's a recording from nearly 30 years ago of an American band that came to Australia, had some fun on the radio, and then left. And since then, you know, Ween has grown an entirely new fandom, including me. And we know where they are now, you know, they're touring, I think, for the most part, and they did that really cool South Park reunion special. But for some funny reason, I feel really compelled to tell Dylan just how much, you know, this random moment that was part of his life nearly 30 years ago has really inspired me to do this, something I've always wanted to do. I think it would be a waste to not let Dylan know just how much he has sort of indirectly inspired me creatively. So that's where we go next. What happened to the co-writer of Shrimp on the Barbie? Who is Dylan? Dylan.
Greetings. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. Great to meet you.
And to you, sir.
This is Jason. Let me know when you're ready.
I've got both going.
Great. All right, so Dylan,
Yes.
good to finally meet you in person. I've been listening to your voice on that recording for probably 5+ years now, and it's great to put a face to the voice. What were you doing in Melbourne at the time? How old were you? Sort of put me in that headspace.
I was in my early 20s, living in St Kilda on a shop top, which was a cool little 2-bedroom apartment on top of a butcher shop. And it was cool because it was cheap. And I had an interest in music, so I'd sort of picked up harmonica a few years before that, just as sort of some kind of instrument I could try and get good at. The main guy I played with early in the day was C.W. Stone King. So he was a guy that was busking in the streets of Melbourne. So it has led me on different paths. So harmonica in itself has, for sure. It's definitely been a really fun instrument, and it appeals to a lot of people because there's not a lot of people that do, play it. So. And it's funny because I was always lacked a bit of confidence, sort of striving to sort of find out what you're trying to do in life and where you sort of want to be. And
in terms of the day, what were you sort of doing that day? Were you listening to the radio? Were you keen to listen to Ween on the radio?
No intention to listen to Ween on the radio. I had my head in a lot of blues and stuff at that time. I was lucky that I had a flatmate who had a fairly diverse range of music. That actually really helped me open my mind up to a lot of other stuff. We had the radio on that evening. Yeah, Ween was being interviewed because they were doing this tour. And I think my flatmate was, might have been, I think he might have been, he was booked to go. So he had his hand more on the pulse. Karen Lang's show, she was an awesome presenter, always used to get, a lot of interesting music and musicians through. Ween was cooking, like they were in the studio, and I was like, is this the same band that did Push Little Daisies? Because these guys sound fucking awesome. What was funny was just there was a lot of really, I was expecting kind of witty people to be calling up and just talking and going, whatever. But it wasn't really happening. There was just a lot of, I remember there was like a guy called Dick that called up, and then there's another Dick that called up. Yeah. And Boric, who was my flatmate, I think I said to him, oh man, I should just call up and ask if they want to jam because I could just hear what they were doing. And I was like, that'd be cool. And Boric said, yeah, you should, I dare you. Go on. And I was like, oh, all right. So I called up. I just remember that from the initial instant thing, they were just so genuine. They're like, Dylan, yeah, what's going on, man? Like, what's up? Like there was this real cool thing that they had going that was really down to earth. And I remember being a bit younger and sort of more nervous. And so, oh, God, have it.
Did you feel, because it sounds like you're sort of like not taken aback by it, but when you ask them, do you need a harp player, you sort of laugh and chuckle like you're joking.
Yeah, it was nervous. Yeah.
And then they go, yeah, and you're like, oh, sort of surprised by that? Did you think that'd be so enthusiastic?
Yeah, it's a hard one because there's been many harmonica players, people that have said they play harmonica that have killed situations. Harmonicas can be carried by anyone, and they can be a concealed weapon. They can sound terrible. Yeah. And they were just willing to, they were so open to anything. I just love that. And that was sort of how that philosophy of that band, in the sense of their openness to music, to genre, to just, they didn't put up any walls about anything. Yep. I didn't want to make an ass of myself, but they knew it. as well as I did, what to do. And because I got the phone there, just playing like this, and then I could hear it, but I could hear them clearly coming through. And then my flatmate had the radio on in the back room, so I could hear this kind of slightly long delay. I think we might have shut the door at some point. And I remember my flatmate running down the hallway. And he just ran into the room, skidded in the room. He was like, "Fuck yeah, that's great, man!" And he ran back up, shut the door.
Well, they said, come out. So did you end up going to the Evelyn that night?
Yeah. The next night, I went down there. I was a babe in the woods because I'd just barely been into any gigs like that. I was like, oh, this is how the other half, this is how all the cool young people live. And they were actually worried that there'd be a number of Dylans trying to turn up. So I rocked up and said, oh yeah, I'm that dude. And I was just pumping, man. Fuck the atmosphere. I was like, whoa. I just stepped in and just felt this thick, just energy. I went and met all those fellas. I felt, wow, I felt so out of place. I was like, oh my God, these are like seasoned veterans. Mm-hmm. And they had an awesome gig and they forgot to call me up. Totally blown away. And Jim's like, oh fuck, we forgot to get you up, man. Like, sorry, we're just so in the zone. And I was like, fair enough. And they said, come back tomorrow night.
Yeah. So the next night you came back?
I came back.
To the Evelyn?
Yep.
Okay.
And then they just said, all right, to make sure it works, I went up on stage for the first tune.
Yeah.
So I just got up. I didn't know what they were doing. They played Take Me Away. Hung out with them a bit after the gig. That was that. And then life went back,
And did you ever get in contact with them again? Did you ever see them again? Was there any?
There was a couple of contacts, which were nice. Again, for their Mollusk tour a couple of years later. So, I came along to that one and then they got me up to play. And then there was one other time when I went to the States and lived over there for a bit.
Yep.
And I emailed the drummer. I just said, hey, I'm traveling through the States. If you guys are doing any gigs or tours, let us know. If I happen to be nearby, I'll come and check you guys out. And he said, oh, hey, man. He said, we're doing well. We're doing a gig in New York for New Year's Eve. I reckon you should come to that one.
Out.
I know. This is 98, 99. I remember I got onto a train and I was just looking at people around. There was a real buzz, in New York. And I was just like, wow, fuck, it's New Year's Eve in New York. Awesome. You got directions to this venue. And so anyway, I'm sort of hanging out the door. I'm saying, can I go and see the band? They said, look, the band hasn't done a gig for a long time. So they're just having time to themselves before they come on. I went, cool. So I went, I'll just go and stand near the stage and wait. And so I was there and finally the band comes down and they wander down and I'm just like, hey fellas. And they just fucking ghost me. They're just beeline straight, And then I was like, oh fuck, they haven't seen me for years. I just look like a fucking neurotic fan to them. I was like, hey, touch your shoulders before you play.
What was the venue called?
I can't remember. It's actually online though. So there is I'll have to show it to you, but there is an online of me playing with them up there. Yeah. Band finishes their song like, hey, we got a mate from Australia.
We actually have a guest here on the song from Australia. It's our friend Dylan. Where are you, Dylan?
Yeah. Dylan, where are you? And I was like, And there I was, killing it with Ween for a tune.
Some amazing stories, and I mean this is just from you calling into the show and then one thing leads to another leads to another.
It's a cool thing though. Look, it's a really awesome thing, so I think more people should hear it, to be honest. I think it's great. I think it's a wonderful positive sort of thing about what one phone call can do, just the right thing at the right time.
But in terms of you said earlier that you lacked a little bit of confidence. You think
I sort of still did. A funny thing with confidence, it took sort of probably into my 30s in some ways to sort of work on that side of things.
How does it make you feel to know that me filming this project right now, I feel like is probably one of the biggest steps I'll take in my life because of something you did something silly and fun you did on the radio.
I hope it's the first of many. Yeah, look, I love it. That's what I do love about things evolving in a way and sort of just taking advantage of an opportunity and going, that's something, and then actually following it through. I think that's what happened to me back then, and perhaps what's happened to you. I guess in a way, you go. It's just a hunch. You just got to. That's what you can do is take hunches and and intuition.
Well, thanks very much, Dylan. This has been
Pleasure, man.
fucking
It's
awesome.
been more than a pleasure to have a couple of random dudes come down and and that's sort of a generation. You know, it's nice to see that sort of. And if I was a better beatboxer.
When I first heard the radio performance, I knew this was a story I wanted to tell. Originally, the concept was a story about where was Dylan and who was Dylan. And it sort of morphed into something else and then finally into what it is now. I remember that first message I sent to Dylan quite some time ago now, and it took him a long time to get back to me. And I really thought that he was not going to be involved, and that was scary to me. I used to get really sort of anxious when I would walk to work some mornings and think about this video and how I would do it without him, and just if I would be able to do it at all. So when I originally sort of came up with this concept, it was Dylan's story. But as I was making it, I realized that it was actually my story. The reason why I can't explain to people why I find this recording so interesting is because it is so deeply personal to me. I never thought that telling Dylan's story would intertwine so much with my own life and my desire to create and tell stories. I know it sounds cliche, but if you've got a really great idea, all you have to do is start it. And I don't really need to say the rest because you really hear it all the time. And I'm really glad Dylan made that phone call all those years ago, because without that, I wouldn't be sitting here right now. And now having done it, I'm really glad it's over. I'm glad I told this story. I finally made something. I finally had an idea and I did it. And I'm really proud of myself for finishing, because that's something I typically never do. So I guess all that's left to say is thank you. Thank you to Ween for touring Australia in the mid-90s. Thank you to Karen Lang and Triple R for hosting them. And thank you, Dylan, for making the call. That was great.